I welcome everyone who ever listens to this recording. Again, this will be an interactive discussion between us, between the Moz and the one who speaks. And this topic is something which, if we know, might give even more insight the nature of reality, because what we mean by the nature of reality, it's two things what we mean: the nature of conditional things and the nature of the unconditional. And when we speak about the conditional things, we simply mean the five aggregates of feeling, form, perception in the sense of memory, mental formations, which we will see what we truly mean by that, and experience. And about this, we always say that it's impermanent, it's suffering, and it has no self, no overlord, no director, so to say. And previously, we have spoken about the connection between feeling and experience consciousness, that even though in all types of consciousness there is feeling, yet we speak about two different aggregates here because of the simple factuality that we make feeling something so big, because feeling has a very big impact on the being itself. Therefore, we speak about experience as, being attentive at something, and then feeling, which, even if you look at it when you get to, for example, eat food, you might speak about its geometrical shape, you may speak about the different colors that it has, but ultimately what it boils down to is, did you like it or did you not like it? So that is the reason for which feeling is also a different aggregate. However, in this discussion, which we named Conceptual Proliferation, we will speak about the connection between perception, the way one has got to know something, and mental formations. What are mental formations? Sometimes they're also called fabrications. And I think that let's just dig deep into this correlation between the two. So the question might be, which was one first, perception or mental formations? So I will give an example of what it is in the real life. So the child learns from its parents that we have to eat 3 times a day. And then when the child grows up and has a family, it will know that it is only good if you eat 3 times a day, no 4, no 2, no 2.5, 3 exactly. And here you can see that there was a memory, perception, how the child had to perceive the ways of the humans. And then there was a mental formation. Mental formations are the concepts that we use. So, for example, in this case, the mental formation is, it is good to eat 3 times a day. Just an example. And the perception was that of because the child experienced, the everyday life among its parents, and then it had the memory of how it was when he was a child or she was a child. So that is the correlation. But I would like to give other examples of what is the difference between mental formation and other things. So, for example, if I say pleasant feeling, it is the aggregates of feeling. If I say there is pleasantness, it's ultimately the feeling that I speak about. If I say I am happy, now what do you think? Asking those who are with me. Is it the feeling? Is it a feeling that we expressed, or is it a mental formation? Is it a fabrication that we expressed?
We'd say a fabricate. Go ahead, Mom. Go, please.
Oh, I'm same. I was going to say fabrication.
And would you try to explain to us why is the fabrication and not a feeling? As you see it, because for some reason you knew the right answer, so you must know it as well. So it's always good to try to explain how we understood things, because that is the best way how we can show others some guidelines. Because it's true, it's a fabrication.
We build it, we put it together in our minds.
Okay, yes, correct.
We fabricate it, yeah.
Yes. So it's because when I say I am happy, it is just, what does happiness mean? It's a concept. Because also if I say pleasant feeling, it's something that can be seen in reality, right? Pleasant feeling. We all know what it means, pleasant feeling, right? Because there is pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, and neither pleasant nor unpleasant, namely neutral feeling. These are three types of mental feelings that we have. And the two types of bodily feeling is pleasant and painful. So these are the two bodily. And thus, if I say there is unpleasantness, it's a reality. I can observe it. Yes, it's there. But what happiness means, when the meaning of something depends on the one who says it, it means it doesn't have an ultimate existence, ultimate in the sense of being as a building brick of reality. And because if I say, oh, I'm so happy, it doesn't mean anything. Of course, we want to say that there is pleasantness. But, if I speak about pleasantness, there are several pleasantness that I can speak about. Mental, but out of the sense word. Wholesome, unwholesome, like greed, pleasant. Non-greed, non-hatred, pleasant. There can be zest as bodily pleasant, but it is due to concentration in a jhana, for example. Or these are the types of, for example, pleasantnesses that we can speak about. So when we say, I am happy, it is a fabrication because we say what it means. It doesn't mean anything by itself. It cannot be observed in reality. So mental fabrications, mental formations are the realm of concepts, things that should mean something, but not by themselves, because in themselves they don't have any inherent meaning, and we tell it what it should mean. So, for example, if I say water or earth, or the best example is in fact fire, it has an inherent nature. I can describe it, it has a reality. But if I say, let's say, the meaning of life, such a thing, because I decide what it is, it cannot have an ultimate nature. Fire has an ultimate nature. Pleasant feeling, it has an instinctive nature. But the meaning of life doesn't have an instinctive nature. This is why concepts are many times called timeless, because, so to say, they have never existed in that sense. Therefore, they don't have an instinctive nature. Therefore, they are so-called timeless elements, timeless objects. And this is the connection, that there's always a type of perception, a type of memory, and out of that we make a formation. So as one of the most previously said, soldier having experienced unpleasantness during a war, for example, in that moment there was a factual unpleasantness during the war. But when it came out of it, it just kept reflecting on that memory and saying, oh, it's so bad. Oh, I don't want to do this. This is not for me. I was there. But these are all just conceptual entities that war is, of course, it's a factuality that war is unwholesome or is not a great thing. But the fact when I say I'm so sad about it, it's already a conceptual because, it doesn't describe exactly what it is. The simple thing is that we color things. So in concepts, we color reality. Because concepts themselves don't mean anything, we color them so that they have an apparent reality. If I say happiness, I colored pleasant feeling. But it's happiness even if I can eat a lot, but it's greed, so it's unpleasant. So because the word happiness is so colorful, has a multiplicity of meanings, therefore we consider it a concept because it doesn't mean anything as long as one doesn't give a definition. When you define it, you can define it with objective things such as pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, wholesome, unwholesome. Those are factual, but that of happiness in itself is not. Sadness the same way is not something factual, because you have to say it's unpleasant or aversion, that's factual. But I'm sad just out of the blue. Again, it doesn't happen because, normally when we say, I just had a bad day, now that is also a concept because number one, there's not even an understanding why you had a bad day. Many people just say, this is how I woke up. But again, there was a type of experience that made that day bad. So there are factual realities. Concepts are conventional. Because if something is conventional, as one of the moths said, it is a fabrication. Because conventional things we made up so that we can describe reality. But in turn, we have spoken about this, that our words are also conventional. So we are not even close to describing a single thing in reality, even though we made up these things to presumably describe our reality. We spoke about it, that we decided that certain sounds mean something, and then we use them as a matter of fact reality, but those are just concepts. Those are just words, and we impose a concept on it. If I say dog, it means something because I imposed a concept on it, namely that being that we mean by the dog. But first, there's always a type of perception, namely that of the dog. Imagine the little child, the little girl goes to a walk with the mother, and she sees a dog, and she asks the mother, "Mom, what is there? What is that there?" And the mom says, "It's a dog." See, first there was a perception, it perceived the animal, and then it gave a concept to it. It colored it out. It's a dog. So that is the conceptual entity already there. Now, what is the problem, and why do we call this whole scenario, we named it conceptual proliferation? It's called proliferation because out of one simple seed of experience that in turn turned to perception into a memory, into getting the way one got to know something, you make a whole ocean out of it. Just see this. Somebody on the streets, unknown to you, said some rude words about your outfit, okay? One momentary, or let's say several moments of experience. And then a mindful being, what would do a mindful being? A mindful being would say, there was hearing going on, there was maybe unpleasantness, period, because that is what happened. But if this conceptual thinking, takes over, but what are the concepts here? Let's analyze that first. Well, the concepts here is that my outfit, it's mine, not somebody else's, it's mine. That is the first concept. And the second is about the nature of that outfit. It's lovely, it's ugly, it's this or that. That is also a concept, because what ugly and beautiful mean are also colorful, therefore they're conventional. This is what I want to say. So my outfit, my feelings about that outfit, the other being's feeling about that outfit, my opinion, their opinion. So you see several components, several concepts in the whole situation going on. And when that being goes on, maybe that person says something rude back to the other, but that it will just, boil in the being's mind. How dare he said that? In fact, this is so beautiful. How it's even possible that he said that? And there is this constant struggle to try to fight down that other opinion, whereas one could simply just realize, oh, well, these are concepts, and concepts are not different than a blazing fire. If I immerse in it, then much luck coming out of it unburnt. And this scenario shows how out of one single simple seed of perception, one creates a whole garden and a whole ocean of things. And this is how we create continuously. And out of this perception and concept, it even can happen that anyone who is nearly similar to or almost not similar to that being who critiqued us, we would have that memory coming back. Yes, he looks like that other guy. So you see, there is this manifold creation. Let's put more and put more. So we keep fueling this. So we keep taking delight in it. Because even in aversion, we take delight, else why would we care to have aversion? So there's a taking delight in that particular experience, and then there's a fueling and the fueling and the fueling, and it goes on. If there is no mindfulness, such conceptual entities are going to establish the direction of our life. Because see another example, and I then give this established, unestablished example. So when we say, that you have to eat 3 times a day, you have to do this because this is how it's done. These are all just conceptual entities, but they become almost the number one definers of our life. Because, yes, I'm part of this tradition, so I have to put this outfit on that particular day of the year when my nation became, I don't know what day, won a war, whatever. And then you see there are these concepts, and they are like nails in your skin, in your own form. Because wherever you turn, you cannot think outside of these concepts. Because once you immersed yourself into them, you become like a ball on a soccer game. You cannot go outside of the range of what you put down there. There is a concept, and you cannot go beyond it. And therefore, wherever you would move, whatever you would take, those concepts will always become a bondage, because you will not be capable of thinking outside of that. Just see, for example, so many nations angry at the other one because of mere concepts. What do I have to do with somebody who did something to somebody else 200 years ago? What connection do I have to those beings in the present moment? None. There is no. Yet, because of conceptual proliferation, it keeps going as if it was present, because it was kept fueled for so long that we don't even know where it started and what was the reason, but we fuel it. Why? Because this is how we do things. And you see, with concepts, beings, how can you might ask the question, how can I guard myself against concepts? How can I see when something is a concept and when something is a matter of fact reality? Well, a concept, if I ask why is it so, a concept doesn't have an answer. So you should eat 3 times a day, for example. And if I ask why, Why couldn't I just, for example, twice at 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. and call it a day? If I eat enough calories, for example, why couldn't I? And the answer for concepts all the time is because this is how it's done. So there is no instinctive nature. It has no instinctive reality of why that is the way it goes. For example, if we speak about a topic of the four primary elements like earth, if you say that earth is a concept, I will say no, because that is in fact the toughness of things, or fire is the heat of things, or air is the pressure of things, or the effectualities. Yes, we can even measure it. The temperature of something, the pressure, the density. These are all measurable, factual, physical realities. But if you say something like this as happiness, for example, it means nothing. And you cannot, give if I ask, why is this happiness? You will say, because it feels good. But yet still you haven't really said if it's wholesome, unwholesome. So you keep going in conventional realities. You're in the trivial, not in the essential understanding. So concepts have never have an answer to why is it so. So for example, there is that beings many times say there is one God. And if you ask why, they will say because this is how it has to be. But actually, the correct answer would be this is a concept, of course. But for example, if we speak about Nirvana and we say that Nirvana is, or call it Brahman, so we say that the ultimate reality is one-fold. And you ask why? Thinking that is a concept, then I will simply answer that because suffering is manifold, but the cessation of suffering is only one, namely when suffering ceases. And that is why the ultimate reality is one-fold, because it has there is no need for multiplicity. So therefore, it's not a concept. But if you say that some things that, are conceptual, if you say, for example, nation, great nation, it again doesn't mean anything, because why is the great nation? Because we believe it so, because we remember it as such. But this doesn't, because this is a coloring of reality. What is the greatness in killing so many people? That would be the first question that we might ask, of course. So you see, this is the conceptual proliferation. It keeps going and going, and this is why we say mindfulness. What does it mean, mindful? If there is pleasantness, see it as pleasantness. If there is unpleasantness, see it as unpleasantness. If there is pain, see it as pain. And there is this saying, don't make things more and don't make things less than what they are. So with beings tend to make things more than what those things are. For example, my outfits, my opinion, these are making things more than what they are. And when do we make things less? When you say that you had a bad day, and as I ask why, you said, just like that, nothing in particular. You made it less because you don't recognize the presence of unpleasant feeling, for example, just an example. So not to make things less than what they are and not to make them more than what they are, the perfect way to do it is to see for what they are, namely feeling, form, experience, memory, fabrication. Only these 5 things we experience. There is nothing outside the range of these 5 things. Okay, sorry. Yes, Nirvana is outside of the range of these things, but then there is no conceptual proliferation when one is absorbed in the ultimate reality, of course, because that is a cessation of conceptual thinking. So there is no, so to say, perception. There is no creation of memory, of establishing. So this is why it's very important, because this conditioned reality is impermanent. So it keeps flowing. See it as a river. And concepts are like nails. but you can, put nails into something which is solid, not into something which is impermanent. And if you try to put nails, like conceptual nails in the river, calling it a reality, you will simply miss out that it has changed so many times, but nothing really changed in the ultimate sense, because right now you put a reality there. I am of this nation, but the river keeps flowing. You wake up as a different being every morning, and not to say that in every moment there is a different being here, and it's not even true that there's a being, but that is the best way. There is always a different coming together of everything. Therefore, it's a blazing fire. If you see yourself as a blazing fire as well, that's the right thing, because it's never the same, never ever. So that is why conceptual entities create this blockage, and that is why one has to be mindful, and one has to be the practitioner of insight in order to see these things. Because yes, even if one is a stream enterer or a once returner, even a non-returner might have conceptual entities. So they are not yet free of them, of course, because as long as there is greed, hatred, or delusion, or there are conceptual entities. So for example, a non-returner might feel, it's so great, it would be so great to be born in a jhana world. Conceptual entity. And of course, that is what they will go to. They will have a jhana rebirth and no physical rebirth, of course. But the fact is that these don't disappear right away. But certain conceptual entities disappear right away, such as, for example, once one goes into deep insight and for the first time goes beyond the mundane, one gives up identity view, attachment to rituals, and doubtful thinking. So there, the concept of the self will vanish. So to say, the concept of identification will vanish. The feeling of I exist will not yet vanish, because it's conceit, the feather of conceit, but the identification. So they will not identify with anything. They will not find the self, but they will still think that this coming together is in a way real, so to say. But they will not identify with any part of it. But of course, there's still conceptual thinking in this. And right now, I would like to read up a part from a great sutra, which gives great insight into the nature of such conceptual proliferations. And the questioner asks the teacher, for one, in what state does form cease to be? How bliss and suffering come to cease as well? Please, do you tell me how these come to cease? First, we would know, such is my intent. So the questioner basically asks, okay, we see pleasantness and unpleasantness. Bliss has to be understood in this term as pleasant feeling, not bliss in the sense of cooling off of feelings. This is pleasant and unpleasant. So the question asks, how does feeling, pleasant and unpleasant come to an end, so that one is really, so to say, in peace in this sense? And then the answer is that neither one of normal perception, nor yet abnormal, neither unperceiving, nor cessation of perception, but form ceases for one who has known it thus. Conceptual proliferation has perception as its cause. Okay, so the question is, how can one go beyond pleasant and unpleasant? How can be, beyond these two, not in between, but outside of the range of these two? And of course, we know the answer is from the previous discussion of conditions that will be in the description, that if there is no contact, there is no feeling. And that is the answer. But the question is this, then how can one have no contact, And then we go back and we see that with the cessation of ignorance, namely when one is absolutely absorbed in the signless, then there is no pleasant and unpleasantness. And then, the answer says that neither one of normal perception nor yet abnormal, neither unperceiving, no cessation of perception, but form ceases for one who has known it thus. So you see, the question, and this is something which is very crucial in understanding, because it seems that this being who, is absorbed in the cessation of concepts, let's call it like that, in the cessation of mind and matter, doesn't have a normal perception nor an abnormal perception. So, many times when we speak about the cessation of, the five aggregates, it might seem as absolute annihilation, that there is nothing left, like that is annihilated, everything is gone. But that's actually not true, and it's not even true in the teachings of the Buddha, which seems for most as nihilistic, because he speaks about this consciousness, so to say, which takes no object. So of course, then it cannot be called consciousness, because consciousness always takes an object and always has a feeling to it. So therefore, it's not outrightly correct to call it consciousness. It's normally called absorption. Yes, there is, so to say, an awareness. Sometimes they call it vacant gaze. The vacant gaze into reality, which means that there is no object taken whatsoever, and then one is to be said to be free. But here is the explanation that one is neither of normal consciousness. Here, perception and consciousness can be taken synonymous as one perceiving, one, being aware of something in this context. So neither one of normal consciousness, nor yet abnormal, neither unconscious, because, many times we might think that the Buddha wants us to be unconscious because that is the cessation of consciousness. But non-percipient beings, for example, there is such a realm of existence. Now, non-percipient beings get to be non-percipient because they go to the fifth jhana and they have a strong dispassion towards perception. But where they go is to be non-percipient, not percipient of the beyond. So that is why a being who, is absorbed into freedom is not to be said to be of normal consciousness or abnormal or unconscious or somebody for whom consciousness has ceased, but for somebody who has understood that perception comes and then concepts also come. So, namely, when there is this direct understanding that as long as there is a perception, there is memory created. As long as there is an experience, concept will arise. If I can have only for one moment a vacant gaze into reality, not taking a simple object, but simply being concentrated onto this objectlessness, so to say, then one can be said to be free and not elsewise. And this is why it's so crucial, this point about, is it conscious, is it not conscious, is it neither conscious nor not conscious, is it both? And the answer is that it is one who is taking delight in an awareness which is beyond, because again, if somebody is conscious or unconscious, these are also conceptual proliferations. So ultimately, the answer is that, normally this is called unestablished consciousness. And, many people would argue that Buddha has never described nirvana as consciousness, and it's true in the sense that there is no object and no feeling, but to say that there is no awareness of, freedom, that would be simply illogical. And this is why he called it unestablished consciousness, which doesn't dwell. This is what it means. And then one who has understood that these concepts come from perception, has no more mundane perception in those moments of being in the luster of wisdom, when there is no when happiness and pain have ceased, so to say. So namely, when contact ceased, one has, so to say, supramundane consciousness. One has, unestablished consciousness. So to say, consciousness then enters into signless, and something is signless when there is no object, because objects are the signs of existence. So this was the discussion on concepts and perception, and how these two, connect with each other, and how one can work on breaking these down and understanding and making them, and abandoning them for good. And now, if there is any question or anything that was unclear, or anything that could be added that we forgot to mention, then please come forth. If there are no questions, then I will thank you for your attention and hear you on another video.